Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just picking out the wrong one. Oh, hello. Welcome back to Mike Loves Fanfic. Alright, we're just about to jump in with another one-shot fic from across the multiverse section. Alright, I am now finally back with the multiverse section. And as you already know, the last video, the picker wheel chose this next one called Of Courts and Courting. So we have officially done 9 one shot out of a 19 one shots that I'm going to read it all. So we're down to 9. So we're down to 10 fics. So great. So then I want to read what this thing is about. This is called Of Courts and Courting. And it is a royal AU. This is royal. We have Galran and Altean. No, Galran is he, Altean is Lance. We have mutual finding. It's every not every fic, most fics that they wrote is mutual finding. And then some sexual implications, so there's gonna be some things you're gonna have to be very careful with. And that's pretty much it. Oh, by the way, there is an art that would relate to this fic here. That is 100% related to, and I'm talking about this one. Yeah, this is by Voltronicworld. Voltronicworld drew this, or if somebody else drew that. Because yeah, this is by Voltronicworld on Tumblr. So they wrote, so someone drew this, and this is based on design that wall painters created. And oh, that's not the right one. Sorry. So this is the Clans AU, and they created this fic based upon it. So right though. And you already know about this drawing right here that was created from way back then. This is from some of my old fics that I read. So, not my own. I did not own those fics. It's Witty name wrote all those. These are the drawings there that's kind of more familiar to you because motorcycle. Okay, anyways, so these are the drawings that's based on this one. Drawing from Voltronicworld, this is also based on this one. So this is a perfect way to, right, to do all this fic right now for you or for anybody else. So I think this is perfect. I mean, look at this. Okay, now without further ado, let me read some summary and we'll hop on that fic. Okay, let's do this. So the summary of this one shot is formerly one of Prince Lothar's bodyguards. He has recently been promoted to Galran ambassador to Altean. After the annual celebration of the peace treaty between the two planets, he will stay there to carry out diplomatic duties. It sounds easy enough, except for one thing. A young Altean royal with sparkling blue eyes and a coy mischievous grin that makes Keith incredibly nervous. Okay, this is kind of more a royale fic than you would listen to. This is more fantasy stuff, but this is very specifically royale. Okay, let's hop on to this one shot, shall we? Let's go. Okay. All right. This is called Of Courts and Court. You're nervous. Daisy's voice is low and indifferent, working out for the slight lift at the edges. I'm not. Keen stands a little straighter, pulls his shoulders back a little more, lifts his chin just a fraction. He'll never have the height of the others, but that doesn't stop him from trying to look as imposing as he can. Your tail is restless, Ulas said smoothly, coming up to stand at his other side. Keith stiffens, heat scraping on his neck as he slowly and pointedly lowers his tail to a more relaxed position. He can't, however, stop the tip of it from swishing. It's an anxious habit he picked up as a child, and it's one that he had thought he'd broken. Apparently not. Apparently, all his carefully controlled ticks like to rise back to the surface whenever Lance gets involved. Restless tail, twitching ears, smiles that break through, scowls that go unchecked, a flare of his temper, the slip of his tongue. Yes, something about the Altean Royal puts Keith on edge, breaks all his carefully crafted defenses, and he's crafted self-control that he's managed to building string. We'll be landing shortly, Ulaz continues, gazing out at the data pad in his hands. We're ailing near the castle. Once we declare for landing, we'll do so without delay. Face grunts a short acknowledgement, and Keith nods. His hands tighten where they clasp behind his back, just barely. It's barely just enough. He sees Ulaz turn to him out of the corner of his eye. It's okay to be nervous, he says, more softly. This is your first official day as an ambassador, and your first day in what will be your new home. Changes are reasonable reasons for nervousness. Keats needs to glance at him, but he's already turned back to his data pad. Besides, living on Altea isn't so bad. It's a beautiful place with a mild climate, and people have become more hospitable now that the peace treaty has lasted for several years. Face that's not subscript. I don't think it's a living on Altea that's gotten nervous. Keith's head was round, eyes narrowed as he says, Face, but too late. Uyalas is already looking between them. One eyebrow delicately lips, curiosity starting to color his features. Oh, this does even have the decency to disguise his grin. I believe Keith is nervous about seeing young Prince Lance again. Keith feels his ear shift, shoulders hunching slightly as he mutters. Technically, he's just Duke. His words are unheeded, however, as Uyalas nods away. Ah, yes, that's right. I forgot about Keith's growing friendship with the young nobleman. His gaze shifts to Keith, and he can feel it boring, perhaps more than a friendship. Keith's eyes snap out, growing wide and mouth open as he expresses, Just friends. We're we're just friends. An unconventional friendship, sure. A friendship that started off on the wrong foot. Yeah. A close friendship that Keith treasures far more than he'll ever admit aloud. Yes. But a friendship nonetheless. He clears his throat, once more resuming a more real standing and fixing his eyes straight ahead. I'm not nervous to see Lance again. Too unconvincingly, and silence falls over them as the ship shifts. They can hear the anti-grav boosters roar into overdrive, and the familiar movement of the ship, a large and elaborate vessel made for luxury over efficiency, lands at the familiar royal landing pad outside the Altean castle. Keeps into the procession with Face and Ulas at his sides, and they wait as the ship grows and sails. As the hover engines cut, a silence settles over them. As the sound of the large door unlatching echoes throughout the bay, as the air hisses while it equalizes pressure, as the door begins to lower to the ground below, letting light spill into the ship. Prince Lothar steps out first, flanked by his generals and followed by visiting nobility. It's strange not to be there with them, as he had been during every previous seat, not as nobility himself, but as part of the royal guard. Now he's further back in the procession, but with arguably a more important position. As he steps into the light, he squints against the glare, eyes burning as they adjust to the brightness. There's a crowd gathered below, a welcome committee, as there always is. King Alfor stands at the center, his queen and his daughter at his sides. Nobles, servants, and guards surround him. It doesn't take long for Keith to pick him out of the crowd. It doesn't take long for his gaze to lock onto the blue eyes, to roam over windswept chestnut hair and beautiful bronze skin. He glitters in the sunlight with all his gold jewelry and gemstone baubles. He wears an outfit of the traditional white and blue, tight in all the right places to give Keith a good idea of the body that hit the knee. He's taller than he used to be, broader in the shoulders and leaner in the hips. And when his eyes catch Keith's, the pinch in his brows eases. The slight curves of his lips evaporates, replaced by a wide, crooked smile, one that radiates an excitement that's nearly palpable. Keith's heart stutters. A shiver runs down his spine. His chest feels fluttery and tight all at once, and he's pretty sure his palms are sweating. He has no idea what his tail is doing, and honestly, he doesn't want to think about it. They met many times over the past 3 years. The first time being the requisite signing of the peace treaty, when they had met out of uniform on a midnight escapade to sneak into the kitchens, and Keith had accidentally insulted him the next day in a public setting, surprised letting his tongue run loose. They've grown since then, for better, he thinks. It hasn't been easy, with Lance being a duke and keeping part of the royal guard. They've been hard pressed to find time to spend together during his visits, but despite the pain of it all, Lance has never failed to come up with schemes to get them away. Never once tried to break off their budding friendship. Always found ways to spend time with Keith. Maybe not as much as he would have liked, if his disappointed pouts were any indication, but they may do. They kept their they kept up letter correspondence when he's back on the Dibazal, both physical and digital, and they utilize video transmissions whenever they can find time. Getting to know the young Duke has been nice. Really nice. Outside the realm of formalities, Keith found himself easing in Lance's presence. Found himself sharing far more about himself than is probably proper. He'd be lying if he said Lance calls and letters didn't make him happy. His first real friend, first real confidant. His letters make smiles form unbidden and memories shared make his heart far too fond. Still, could have sworn that over the years he had become immune to Lance's charm, used to his smiles and indifferent to his casual touch. A mere day ago, he would have sworn on his life that Lance no longer held the same sway over him. Not like not like he had when the boy was new, and his smiles were too bright and his laugh too infectious. But upon looking at him in the crowd, Crook grin crinkled his eyes, and making them light with mischief and unbridled enthusiasm. He can't deny the pound of his heart or the goosebumps rising in his skin. Okay, so maybe Lance makes him nervous. It's a strange sort of nervousness that's new and terrifying, and he doesn't know what to do about it. So we are setting in right now on this era. This is where Keith is just becoming a new manager, no, not a manager, one of the ambassadors, one of the royal guards of whatever the castle is. There's this palace or the castle, whatever it is. There's King Alfor in the place, and then we have Lance stepping down with beautiful, no, design that they use for the meeting and starting this procession for becoming part of the ambassadors. And he is really nervous now in becoming ambassador, but there's some relationship between him and Lance in those because he was part of the royal guard and Lance was a duke in his castle. So this goes a lot of different things. So we'll see how this thing goes forward. These are your rules, sir. The Altean bows briefly before gesturing to the scanner for the door. The sensor is attuned to you. The ambassador stays in your loss and council staff who will need access to your chambers. He does his best not to fidget under the formalities. It sounds strange and makes the formal clothing he wears feel heavy and tight. Thank you. The servant nods. It is my pleasure, sir. They lapse into silence, clearly waiting for something. He glanced around, but the ace he lost had already disappeared into the rooms next door. A few moments of tense silence. The Altan takes pity on him, nodding the scanner. Why don't you try it out, sir? Make sure your rooms are to your liking. Even as a member of the Royal Guard, he had been living in the room with 3 others. A spacious room, but a shared living quarters nonetheless. Here, he has a whole room to himself. He puts his hand to the scanner, and after a brief flash, the doors slide open. The room he steps into, much to his relief, is elaborate but modest. It opens into a sitting room, Couches and cushioned chairs, tables and a fireplace, a window seat on the far wall, a desk and a bookshelf stocked with tomes. Well designed, well furnished, well decorated, but not over the top and nowhere near as fancy as you expect for a noble royalty. He feels some of the tension ease out of him, but only some, because he doesn't just have a room to himself, he has rooms. His chambers consist of the sitting room, a washroom far larger than anything he needs as a single person, and a bedroom. Are the rooms to your liking? It takes Keith a moment to find his voice. Please, when it comes out even and not nearly as odd as it feels. Yes, this is more than enough. The servant bows, beckoning out to the doors. I will leave you to rest and prepare for tonight's feast. If you need anything, you may call for someone using the digital pad on the table. The door slides shut, and in the silence that follows, exhaustion floods in. His shoulders slump, and he runs his fingers through his hair, muzzing up all the hard work he put into it. As strange as it feels around Lance, the dope isn't the only source of Key's jittering anxiousness. This is his first time as an ambassador, and despite the training he received over the past few months, he can't help but feel wholly and completely unprepared. It's a heavy weight of responsibility, one that requires far more than just being good with a blade and shouting road tour, especially given the past tension between Dai Bazal and Altea. The treaty is important, his job is important, and he wants to make his mother proud. Pressure is something he used to, but the weight of it has never been comfortable. It's one he's heard to bear through hard work and a lot of patience. He's learned how to shoulder responsibility, but he doesn't think he'll ever truly enjoy it. He doesn't think he'll ever be immune to it. He has a lot to worry about, setting into his new home. First impressions, proving himself, not making a fool of himself. Yet all he can think about beautifully blue eyes that gaze at him with a gleam of hidden intimacy, of private jokes and secrets shared, of a sense of familiarity that goes far deeper than he'd like to admit. With a sigh, he moves across the room, intent on collapsing the couch and perhaps letting himself down until the feast that evening. That is, until his eyes catch on the bundle resting on the desk, tied neat with a bow of twine. Curious, he steps over to it, running his fingers along the box edges, cutting a sharp nail under the twine. Lifting the lid, his breath leaves him in a rush. Neat rows of bottle paints, pristine brushes, and pristine brushes with handles that glitter like pearl, colored inks and pencils and charcoal. He picks up the note resting just atop, a smile touching his lips as he recognizes the handwriting. Consider this a welcoming gift. There are some canvases and sketchbooks on the desk in the bathroom. I look forward to seeing what you create. I look even more forward to seeing you at dinner. I may have pulled some strings. Lance. He changes his mind. The pressure of this new position and stress of first impression is nothing compared to the way Lance makes him feel. Light-headed, weak at the knees, body cold and hot all at once, shivering even as he crawls up his chest, breaking out in sweat. He tries to rest before the feast, but his body won't let him sleep, practically vibrating with anticipation that he has trouble confronting. All right, let's set this all around right now because the servants now show key to the room because he's gonna have his room. Well, more than one room. There'll be plenty of rooms that he'll be comfortable living with. So he'll be as comfortable becoming the ambassador of that one of the cards. And then after that, all of a sudden there is this gift that comes out of nowhere. And they have all the canvases and all the paints, all stuff, for drawings. And there's that note that leaves, for during the stay and giving that one as a welcoming gift. And who wrote that thing is not other than Lance. So Lance wants Kate to feel more comfortable before the feast comes. The dinner feast. Say, all right, let's get on to it. Well, Keith is going to be very nervous about this. Pulled some strings. Apparently means that Lance managed to conceive whoever was in charge of seating assignments to put next to Keith, which Keith both loves and hates. Lance's presence is both a blessing and a curse. Aside from Faze and Ulas, there is no one at this long table filled with royals, nobles, and dignitaries that he would rather sit next to other than Lance. Being near him makes some of the tension of actually sitting next to him, instead of guarding from the wings of the room. Ease. However, being so near Lance leaves Keith once more in the thralls of those strange heart palpitations. His palms sweat, and he's far more prone to dropping things and forgetting which utensils to use for which courses. Not to mention, he's having a hard time looking Lance in the eye when he's close enough for Keith to count his freckles. Still, other than Keith's dizzy heart rate, the feast doesn't end in disaster. Lance has always been good in socialization aspect of mobility, and for once Keith is able to see him shine firsthand. His laugh is much more powerful up close than across the room. His smile is mesmerizing, and his eyes are dazzling, catching and reflecting like all the bubbles and gold he wears. From this close, Keith is also able to see how intricately he guides and weaves the conversations around him. He seems to listen to everything, three conversations at once. He ducks and dips between them, slipping in amusing comments in that leave laughter in their wake. Directs and shifts the flow so easily and so naturally. And it's subtle enough that no one seems to notice how he diffuses any rising tension around him. Keith, however, is so attuned to the man next to him that he notices. He notices how Lance hones in on any conversation directed at him, how Lance sweeps in whatever Keith's floundering for answers, how Lance effortlessly backs up the things he says, how Lance lightens the mood whenever things feel awkward. He's there, guiding and directing Keith, keeping him from making a fool of himself at his first big event. It's relieving, calming, and puts him more at ease as time goes on. But there's something else, something warm and soothing in his chest, full of softness in his gut that seems to flutter and quake. When he looks at Lance, makes eye contact silent and offers a small, shy smile. It feels far more familiar and far more fond than it should. He has no time to regret, however. Now and Lance's eyes crinkle at the edges, and something fills that gaze that Keith can't name, but makes his skin heat nonetheless. Then Lance is turning away, swept up in another conversation, laughing, debating, effortlessly tugging the nobles and dignitaries along on strings. But Keith has stopped listening. Stop trying to follow the flow of conversation. Because Lance's knee knocks against his under the table, his hand resting on the key's thigh beneath the view of others. His long, slender fingers squeeze, illustrating circles through the tight fabric. He doesn't remember much of what happened after that. Conversation, haze, and even became automated as his mind started to focus on anything other than the light touch and the subtle warmth trailing his instinct. Okay, there's a lot of things going on for this portion. So yeah, they're all having it dinner, and Lance specifically, he specifically assigned Keith right next to his brother. And then we can all have dinner. Keith felt really nervous right now because Lance is more social, but he can talk to anybody. All the nobles and then dignitaries, and all that thing. And then all this fees and all this conversations being hazed up because Keith is now that all of a sudden has the hands are now somewhere on his thighs, and this is a oof. The nervousness became very came increase as this as this story goes on, and I felt that I really felt that. Okay, let's get on to it with another way. And down this hall, we have our extensive library, along with several studies. where our brightest minds spend their days doing research while utilizing the World Archives. The Altean drone on, but he had stopped listening long ago. A portly man, short and stout, with a head of pale gold hair that's piled high on his head. He stands far too stiffly and walks like a stick, was wedged up his butt. His voice, high and nasally, drawing out syllables unnecessary, is painful to listen to. He now understands why Daisy Lost made themselves scarce when it was time for Keith's official tour of the castle. He trails behind the man, arms crossed loosely over his chest, and dragging his feet. His poor posture and lagging pace aren't noticed. Early on in the tour, he had tried to sound interested and engaged. He's since given up. His ears lie flat on his head, twitching every time the man's voice creeps up too high or draws out a word too long. He's on the third hour of his tour, and his guide is insistent on showing him every inch of the castle, bragging about achievements here and going on about history there. Never mind that he already knows most of the castle's layout, most of the secret passages, and most of the hidden clothes, a byproduct of spending stolen hours of his previous visits sneaking around lands. But he holds his tongue and hums in acknowledgement when his guide shows him a room he's already familiar with. A former royal bodyguard should know so much. They walk down the hall of private study chambers, some with doors closed, the others ajar. His guide is going on about whatever research is being conducted at the moment. But Keith's thoughts are elsewhere, lost in memories of little blue eyes, a coy smile, and a hand warm his thigh. The Altean ahead of him rounds the corner, but just as Keith is about to follow, there's a tug on his hip, sharp and sudden, pulling him to a stop. His eyes shoot open, body tensing. He opens his mouth to yell, but a hand comes down over it, muffling the embarrassingly high sound. He's pulled backwards, dragged into one of the private studies. Door barely has time to click closed before Keith's moment. Before he grabbed the wrist holding the hand to his mouth and pried it away, twisting as he does so. There's a yellow pain and a gasp of surprise, and the two of them fall to the floor. Instinct overrides caution, and before he really knows it, he has some pinned to the ground below him, pressuring their cheek to the floor and sitting on them while holding their wrist pinned to the back. He has nothing to register soft brown hair, bronze skin, blue gentle earrings and gold ear cups, blue and white clothes, and hands tapping the floor. Ouch! Okay, okay, I yield. Who is that, Keith? Lance. Lance. Keith debates letting go, but decides to let the little roll squirm a bit. Instead, he settles his weight, firm but not crushing. He loosens his grip just enough to keep it from being too painful, and leans down over him. Planting one forearm on the ground by his head, Keith lowers his lips to Lance's ear. He drops his low rumble. What did I tell you about sneaking up? He can feel the way Lance's body shudders, feels the vibrating, hot and chilling, all at once. Feels a net at his nerves in a way that's far from unpleasant. But then Lance is turning his head, gazing up at Keith from the corner of his eye, blue depths sparking with something that has heat seen through Keith's veins. I think you just like have an excuse to manhandle me. His voice is dropped as well, deep and smooth. Lance shifts under him, pressing his hips back, pressing his butt into. Oh, oh, oh no. Keith scrambles off of him, sitting back with a scowl as he creeps up his neck. Lance just chuckles, rolling over before sitting up, idly rubbing his wrists. Now that that's out of the way, his eyes suddenly turn sharp, snapping up to capture Keith. You've been avoiding me. Keith feels his chest tighten, scowl deepening even as he feels the shame run chilling through his veins. I have not. You have. Don't lie to me, Keith. Keith looks away, jaw clenching against the urge to squirm. He feels the restlessness beneath his skin. They need to flee. You can't, however, keep his tail from switching. In no Lance can see. I didn't mean to. Lance shifts closer, hand reaching out to touch Keith's knee. He looks at it to avoid meeting his gaze, admiring the long slender fingers and wide palm. Why? He asked softly. It doesn't sound mad. It just sounds. Did I do something wrong? No. He snaps up the Lance's face, but he too is staring down his hand. Brow pinched and lips pursed. He doesn't like the tremulous storm in his eyes. He puts his hand on Lance's, letting his thumb brush across his knuckles, red shuddering in his lungs like as lilac meets bronze. No, he repeats, shaking his head. It's all of this. He waves a hand around vaguely, scowled back and forth. It's just all different, and I'm trying not to mess it up. This is a big deal. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Not to mention, should say it, shouldn't. But he hates that look on Lance's face. Hates it how it shatters into pieces. You make me nervous. Lance looks up, eyebrow lifting as he tilts his head aside. I make you nervous? He keeps his gaze firmly in their hands. Brett still in his throat as Lance's fingers twine with his. Yes. Why? I I don't know. Well, a finger beneath his chin. Lift the portion to make eye contact. Captured by beautiful little eyes. Narrow the edges from the crooked smirk. Voice slow, bear more than purr. A good nervous or a bad nervous? He swallows. Hears his heart beat in his ears. Can't bring himself to look away, even as his body wants to flee, to run from all the strange sensations compounding, hot and heady in his gut, but hot and heady in his gut. He licks his lips, watches his hand slicker down to him. He wants to say it's a bad nervous, wants to say it ruins their time together and makes him anxious at the prospect of seeing him again, wants to say it makes him feel strange and doesn't mind. Instead, he says, good. Watches the man's lips curve wider, admires the glint of his smile. Good. His left floundering as Lance suddenly moves away, pushing himself to his feet and dusting himself off. Stares blankly at the hand offered to him for a moment before he grabs it and lets Lance pull him to his feet. Lance doesn't let go of him. Now, what do you say we get out of here? He caught his head to his side, ears working but brows work. Don't you have duties to attend to? With all the foreign powers and dignitaries gathering to celebrate the anniversary of Peace Street. Lance has been busy, swamped with obligations and hosting duties, but his grin is impish and his eyes mischievous. Don't you have a tour to get back to? Keith lets us smile, slow and slight, his own getting excitement bubbling at the prospect of ditching the rest of his tour. He knows he shouldn't, but he doubts his guide hasn't even noticed in his absence, and Lance hands so warm in his. Is Red still on the tables? Lance scoops, rolling his eyes to tugs Key back toward the door, peering cautiously out in the hallway. As if I let them get rid of your favorite horse. The coast is clear. Wish you there? Oh, you're so on. And there you go. That's how they meet each other. Because he was in this middle tour that was so boring. But then all of a sudden, there's Lance catching up on Key. Well, he's the one who made himself trip and fall. And now, there you have it. Those two are finally meeting each other. I think the light's about to run out, and you probably won't see me. Well, you still see me. You still see my face. Okay, so I think they're supposed to have their responsibilities. They better run before it's too late. Lance has an obsession with his tail in his ears. It had started out as an annoyance, but somewhere along the line, the Altean's curiosity shifted from interest to fond. And it's that fondness that he finds himself craving. The soft sullen touches, playful looks Lance sends him when he gently tugs at his tail, the way his entire expression eases when his fingers slightly carve through his hair and massage his ears when they manage to find moments alone. Lance's session leads him to reaching out when he probably shouldn't, as if he were driven by a primitive force that he could no sooner ignore than stop it. It makes shivers rise on his skin, makes an electric giddiness sizzle through his veins, sparking and igniting and arching from one fire nerve to another. He doesn't try to stop the touches. When the Republic, he ignores it. He admits Lance colgates and tempers his mouth down as much as he might. He's been trapped in many a conversation where Lance has draped playfully across his shoulders to tug at his ears, or Italy reached to play with the tuft of fur at the tip of his tail. He merely holds eye contact with those around him, ignoring their curiosity at the young Duke's antics and ignoring the fluttering in his chest. Eventually, others stop staring. Eventually, they just chalk it up to being one of Lance's quirks. Eventually, they learn not to draw attention to Lance's antics. In private, however, he encourages the attention, not overtly, not aloud. He merely leans into the touch when Lance's fingers rub behind his ears, melting into his side with a soft exhale, gently batting his tail against him until Lance takes notice and Lance's fingers idly play with it while they talk. Yes, Lance is obsessed with his tail and his ears, but he finds he no longer minds. Okay, I'm not gonna change back to me. So this portion of that fic. This really talks about why is Lance being obsessed with someone's ear or someone's tail. Although, oh yeah, it's a golf. That definitely describes that. So go back to the reference. Yep, Lance kind of a little obsessed with his ears and his tail, and that makes sense, right? That is totally makes sense. Because if you look at this vision, you'll probably understand why. We shouldn't be here, Keith says, stepping close to the edge and leaning over to see the gathered pool of water below. Lance hums, thoughtful but not worried. No, I suppose we probably shouldn't. Keith turns to see him strip off his riding shirt. Watch it drop to the ground with a heavy thump in his heart. Lance's skin looks warm and inviting in this afternoon sun, practically glowing, broad in the shoulders and narrow at the hips, lean with corded muscle, skin stretched almost lazily over the definition. Keith's mouth feels dry. His gut feels tight. He turns away as Lance begins on the laces of his pants, gazing back over the cliff and letting the roar of the waterfall drown out the pond with his pulse. But do you really want to go back to that meeting? You can hear more clothes hit the rock behind him. The gentle slap of bare feet of stone. He really doesn't want to go back. Facing Eli is assuring that after this week, the political meeting would slow to a crawl, but this week has been hell. One meeting after another, just a bunch of aristocrats and nobles talking circles around each other. Today was the day where the nobles were allowed to petition the royals for a change. A necessity, but unfortunate that most of the appeals were about expanding one's land or demanding the settlement of dispute between offended parties. When Lance had offered an escape, Keith had gladly taken it. They had snuck to the stables and paid off the stable boys' sons in baked goods, Clifford from the kitchens. And then Lance had taken him to his favorite waterfall, a serene and private place tucked away from the public eye. Lance comes stand next to him, and there's far too much skin in his preparation. It's clear Lance is still waiting for an answer, though. And Keith sighs, no. Good. He moves in front of Keith, and Keith firmly keeps his eyes on Lance, which proves to be a mistake when Lance leans close, coy smirk on his lips, and breath bending out across his cheeks. He winks, and he calculates to Keith's core. Then, stripped in the name of foreign diplomacy, and with a laugh that floats on wind, he dances away, steps right up to the edge of the cliff, and leaps over the edge. He watches his grace fall, watches his body disappear beneath the water below with a splash. He resurfaces a moment later, waving a hand in the air, and called up to him. Come on, Keith. Then Keith has never been able to resist Lance's demands for long. Throwing caution to the wind, he strips off his shirt and lets it fall to the rock at his feet. His pants and boots follow. It takes a moment to feel the water spray cool his heated skin. And then he jumps. Okay, looks like we are enjoying with all the happiness they found. So this is good. This is all they can get, and it's pretty amazing. Woohoo! He had to spend more time with Lance right now because finally met, and Just keep that ball rolling. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right, let's hop back. The annual ball to celebrate the anniversary of the peace treaty between Altea and Dabazal was scheduled for the end of the week. After that, the foreign dignitaries of Eros would return to their planets, and life on Altea would shift back to normal. And Kiwa would finally be able to settle into his new life and new job here in Royal Castle. Day of the ball, he returned to his rooms. After an intensive sparring session with Days and Yulas, his job as an ambassador doesn't mean he gets slack on his training. And quite frankly, he's thankful for it. He returns to his rooms, feels refreshed and far more at ease than he has all week. The tension buildup in his muscles has melted away, and the strange knot in his gut that gets tighter whenever he's around Lance has finally loosened. Feels good. Feels better than he has in a while. And then he sees a small box waiting for him on the table in his sitting room. A small white box with a blue ribbon. So innocent and serene, despite clearly looking out of place. He approaches it cautiously, glancing around his rooms, but he's alone. Alone with the small box and a folded piece of parchment that has his name written in a familiar script. That knots in his stomach's back, making it hard to breathe and making his limbs feel light. It's with shaking hands that he reaches for the folded letter. Keith, save a dance for me tonight. Lance. Inside the box is a necklace. Crystal pen hangs on a long black cord. The crystal is the deepest crimson, catching the light and bringing even more fractals of color to its depths. It's beautiful. It hums with energy beneath his fingertips. Beneath the necklace is a gold ear cup, so simple and ordinary that he almost missed it. The tiniest of blue gems is embedded into the curve of it. He recognizes it as the same type that Lance wears. He doesn't know what the gift means, but his insides are a mess. Chest clenched tight, veins buzzing, making him feel lightheaded. Weak at the knees, he collapses onto the couch, gifts clutched in his shaking hands. Distantly and strangely, he realizes that while wholly unsettling and odd, the nerves aren't entirely unpleasant. Anticipation. He knows that feeling. It's the feeling before battle, before seeing one of his friends, before escaping a meeting, before going on an adventure, before seeing his mom. The same feeling he has every time he comes to Altea. Nervousness, but anticipation, mixed and woven into something different and terrifying, but exhilarating, exciting, something new. Yes, Lance makes him nervous. He's not sure that's a bad thing. Yep, as for me, yeah, this is never a bad nervous now. Not that now that he thinks about it, is very nervous, but it's not a bad nervous anymore. It's a good nervous. This should be really good now for this one thing. It has to be that good when reading. He isn't sure what to expect, but after spending the first hour of the ball with his heart in his throat and his body strung tight, he finally begins to relax. Being part of the festivities is a lot different from being a bodyguard. He doesn't have to cling to walls or shadows. He doesn't have to keep an eye out for danger. He doesn't have to keep an eye on Lotor. But in a lot of ways, it's very much the same. He still hangs to the edge of the room, watches others, and hovers near the snack tables to pick at food at his leisure. Perhaps the biggest thing that's changed is that now he can openly stare at Lance, no longer restricted by the necessity of at least pretending to be keeping an eye on Lotor. Lance is, well, he's beautiful. And balls like this are where he thrives. He flits and flaunts around the room, tug and pull between nobles and dignitaries. The other patrons pull him aside from discussion, and the younger drag him away to dance. He's never without someone to do, and never alone. And never, it seems, does he find time for Keith. But while his anticipation and nervous expectations have let him feel that deep ache of disappointment, it's soothed by the fact that he knew it would be like this. That Lance's time is valuable and sought after, that he can't keep him to himself, no matter how much he liked to, on a night such as this. So he watches from afar, watches the way Lance laughs and the way his grin shines in the glow from the chandeliers, watches how his clothes cling to and how his body as he moves, as his cape catches his movement and shines with blue glittering stars, as the gold of his jewelry is set alight against his warm bronze skin. He's beautiful. He shines. He's untouchable. So Keith resigns himself to watching, waiting for what? He's not entirely sure. He occasionally makes eye contact with Lance from across the room, though he's not sure how Lance is able to find him so easily. At first, he thinks it's a coincidence, but after it keeps happening, he isn't so sure. Lance sends and smiles, not as big or grand as those he shares with other nobles, but smaller, softer, and somehow more genuine. Before it could slip away, before he can take more than a step or two in this direction, he's swept away by someone else. So Keith watches. He waits, and that's okay. Despite Lane's desire to monopolize much of Keith's time, he does have other friends. The Holts, for one, Pidge and Matt. His mom works with her dad as ambassadors to Earth, one from Dabzal and one from Altea. The two of them form an unlikely but solid friendship, no doubt bonding over the fact that both of them have fallen in love with an Earth. Once they had been introduced, he, Pidge, and Matt got along fine. There's a solidarity in being half-breeds. Hunk is another Altean that he dared to call friend. Lance had introduced them, and while Hunk was Altean royalty, he was genuine and soft-hearted. He referred kitchens to politics, and he and Keith spent a fair amount of time talking near the snack tables at the edges of the ballroom. There's also Shiro, one of the ambassadors from Earth, and one of Keith's close friends. They only managed to get a few moments together before Shiro is forced to mingle, but he leaves with promises that they'll see each other more often once the week is over and life settles more. So Keith spends the evening watching, waiting, eyes drawn to lands across the room, slipping between friends when he can, dodging fast and new laws, and their insistence that he should dance with some of the younger Altean nobles. The red crystal necklace hangs around his neck, resting comfortably against his sternum and catching the light. The pinch and weight of the gold ear cup is foreign, but his awareness of it is anything but unpleasant. No one has asked of him. He's gotten a few raised eyebrows and curious looks. He doesn't know what to make of it. Okay, this is like before the dance and everything and all. They have friends to meet up for. As always, they live around. They've been together, all of them are together, and yeah, this is the part of where like, okay, let's just finally have a ball. So it will be the greatest ball of their life. After that, the celebration will be over. I think sure it is. It probably is. All right, let's go back. He's in the middle of a conversation with Pigeon Matt when a hand settles on his hip, body pressing into him from behind. He stiffens instinctively before he hears Lance's voice, low, desperate, and rush. Ain't a rub, but I need a distraction. He watches Pidge's eyes light up. His shivers smirk her masters. We got you, buddy. Pidge? She adjusts her glasses, light refracting off of them as her smile turns English. There's a group of Altain Knolls behind us. Care to dance, brother? I'd love to. He takes her hand and they do a few steps before he spins her wide. Letting her go, she collides with one of the men. Her limbs sprawl wide enough to take several more down as they topple to the floor. There's immediate shouting, Pidge overly saturant apologies, and Matt's loud worry. As eyes are drawn to them, Lance takes his hand and pulls him to the edge of the ballroom, along the wall until they step out into the hall. He lets Lance drag him through the corridor, two of them dipping behind columns and around corners to avoid passing patrons and servants. He isn't sure where they were going, and every time asked, Lance shushes him. The look of the mischief in his eyes and the warmth of his fingertips woven between his own is enough to keep him going. Then they reach a corridor lined with tall windows, each one that's into a wall to create a little alcove, each one with a cushioned window seat, each one lined with curtains for the option of privacy. Lance drags him into one and pushes him down onto the seat. He watches as Lance pulls the curtain shut, casting one more glance into the hall before closing off the rest of the world. When he turns around, his whole body slumps, a sigh of relief escaping his lips. Finally, and before Keith can say much of anything, Lance climbs into his lap, straddles his legs, and kisses him. Oh, oh. He thinks he might have blacked out for a moment. His mind short circuiting. He's not sure how long he's out. Seconds, minutes. One moment, nothing. The next, everything. Fingers running through his hair, curling into it and tugging, sending pleasant tingles down his spine. Grip forcefully tilting his head for better angles. Lips on his lips, hot and heavy, breath mingling with his own in sharp exhales. A tongue in his mouth, wet and inviting. Teeth tugging on his bottom lip and drawing out a soft whine. A body in his lap, butt rubbing against his thighs. A body in his lap, butt rubbing against his thighs as hips rolling. Oh, that's new. That's nice. Delicious friction feeling of fire burning low in his belly. His own hands on powerful thighs cling to tight fabric and claws digging in an attempt to keep himself grounded. His body responds before his mind catches up. Hips shifting with Lance's, hands roaming, lips clumsy but eager and desperate. Lance pulls away first, leaning back as they both pant heavily, chests heaving as they attempt to catch their breath. Lance's eyes are lidded. Iris dark and inviting as he slowly licks his lips, voice hoarse and ragged and breathless, yet somehow so small and shy as he whispers, "Is this okay?" And it is. It really, really is. He can't imagine it not being okay. This is perfect. Lance is perfect. Feels perfect in his lap, in his arms, and pressing against him, making those soft, happy sounds. Yeah, he sounds just reckless. Eyes straining down to Lance's lips. His hands slide from his thighs to his waist, wrapping around him to bring him close. Yeah, it is. And with the taste of Lance on his tongue, it feels his nervousness melt away, making him dizzy and his body burn. Oh boy, here comes that the sense of whatever this is called. This is I don't know it's dance and all, but this is the private one, and this is kind of a lap dancing. But this I don't know how to explain this, but this is not NCW. Thank God this is not NCW. This is just a lap dancing. Lap dancing does not count as NCW, folks. So if that would happen, I would have censored myself out for this one. But thank God this is just lap dancing. Okay. Okay. Now that get all the dancers out of the way, let's get on to the last part of this one shot. Cool. He isn't sure how much time they spent in alcohol, but by the time they return to the ballroom, his hair is mussed beyond repair, and Lance's lips are far redder than they should be. Thankfully, the marks he left on Lance's neck are easily concealed by his high collar. He maybe had been a little overzealous, but Lance hadn't exactly stopped him. They slid into the ballroom without much fuss, but Keith can feel the eyes on them as they delve deeper into the crowd. He feels his tail twitch and his ears folded close to his head. There is only tails, however, as he stands tall and walks purposely next to Lance. The young royal barely seems to notice, or perhaps he's just used to it. Then Lance spins to face him, stepping away to give himself room to bow. Keith freezes, blinking dumbly as Lance holds out hands to him. As Lance lifts his gaze and kisses Brandon's lips, curved to a devilish smile. May I claim my dance now? Keith doesn't know what to say. He feels eyes on them. He feels their weight against his skin. His throat feels swollen. choking off his words and any words he might think to form. So instead, he swallows, lifts his chin a fraction, and places a shaking hand delicately in Lance's. He's immediately stepped away to the dance floor. Lance gripped firm but gentle as he guides him through the throngs of people. When they find a space, Lance turns to face him, pulling him in close. He moves easily but stiffly. I don't, he scowls. Voice cutting out as he purses his lips. He, he glances around, catching the eyes of the nobles watching him, sees them whispering, and feels dread run down his spine. I don't know how to do this, says Sopter, ears falling close to his head in his own embarrassment. I never learned. I was a bodyguard. I never had to. Hey, Keith, look at me. He lifts his eyes to Lance's, and he's immediately captured. Wrapped up in that soft blue gaze, eyes lit in smirk, small, amused but kind. An arm wraps around his back, pulling closer. I know. I know this isn't your specialty, okay? I don't want to dance with you because you're a great dancer. I want to dance with you because it's you. His lips quirk higher at the edges, lifting his cheeks with it. And lucky for you, I'm great at this. Just follow my lead, okay? Okay, he beats, not quite trusting his voice. But he trusts Lance. Lance moves him across the dance floor. Starts small and slow first, steady as he gets used to the rhythm. His hand rests stiffly on Lance's upper arm, and every time he steps on Lance's toes, he cringes. But his other hand is clasped gently in Lance's grip, and it's a grounding hold that squeezes whenever Keith starts to get too frustrated. The hand at his back gently tracing the bumps in his spine. They dance from one song to the next, and then another, and another. Lance keeps pace with the songs, and even though Keith finds himself longer and faster ones, Lance never once lets him stumble. Keith keeps his eyes on those around him, on their feet, locked into place at Lance's chest, because every time he lifts his eyes, he finds Lance staring at him. Expression far too open, far too fond, far too gentle. It makes something twist inside Keith, hot to buzzing, makes him feel lighter than air, even as he feels like he's drowning. They're in the middle of a slow song, barely doing more than swing. When Lance's hand slides up his back, fingers moving through his hair until they reach his ear. He gently pinches it, massaging the base. Keith by immediately responds, much to his embarrassment, eyes fluttering close, leaning into the touch as a deep rumble sounds in his chest. Lance chuckles, a soft and breathy sound, as fingers trail up to the top of his ear, running along the gold cuff that now sits there. I'm glad you liked your gifts, he mumbles, eyes absolutely locked on the cup, lips curl into a wry smile. He hums. It was very thoughtful. Thank you. Lane quirks an eyebrow, lips curling just a fraction higher. Do you know what they mean? They mean something? Another barely chuckle, a tap of finger on his ear. They're traditional Altean courting gifts. This is one of mine. It's to show others that you're being courted. The hand drops down to the shoulder, sliding back down to its previous place on his lower back. It was keyed closer, a voice low and intimate. The necklace is a crystal with some of my quintessence. It's to keep a piece of me close. Keith's mouth feels dry, his lips light, his head is buzzing and hazy, and he barely hears his own voice as he says, courting? Lance sighs, falling forward to press his forehead to Keith's. His skin is hot. His eyes fall close, but Keith stares. Lost in the way, his cheeks darken beneath his alternate muscles. I want to court you, Keith, he says softly, gently, very louder than a breath. He has strained to hear over the beat of his own heart. Officially and properly, he opens his eyes, meeting Keith in that narrow space between them. He can feel Lance's breath on his lips. He can feel the heat of his body. Is that okay? It sounds uncertain, small, shy, and hesitant. It's new and it's frightening. Lance is rarely anything but confident and loud, firm in his convictions and unwavering in his actions. and Keith is suddenly struck with a realization that knocks the breath from his lungs, takes the ground out from beneath his feet, and leaves him floating, drifting, yet somehow at peace. Because he realizes maybe he makes Lance nervous too. He feels his lips tug at the corners, feels it lift his cheeks. His hand squeezes Lance's. His other slides up from his bicep to wrap around his neck, and he pushes forward, nuzzling into him, roughly and fondly, making the boy laugh. Yeah, he says, just soft, just as private, just as reckless. Yeah, I like that. And okay, guys, that is the end of Courts and Corey. Ooh, this settles into the last part of this fic. And this is really amazing. This is a one heck of that one shot that. So all that gives is that Lance given to Keith. Those were all the preparations for it because Lance wants to court Keith, and this is very exciting. Now courting someone, oh yeah, this is some sort of oh yeah, they're gonna have a wedding. Okay, I think so. What the definition of courting someone? That means yep, there's gonna be a relationship. Yep, this is gonna. Yep, wedding is about to come in soon between the two of them. So those are all provisions so that they'll have to keep it just for some of that stuff. Cool. Good for those two. All right. Now that we describe all of that, this is really good, and I love that and all. This is very nice. Okay, so now that we're done with that fic, let's spin the wheel. So, because this week this is only just a one shot. Next week we're gonna have an SW one shot and just a regular and another regular one shot. So let's just go back there and see how are my fics so far. Okay, so let's see how many fics that I read. I think I read 10 of them. So all comes down to the 9 fics left. So yeah, I read 10 of these fics out of 20. No, 10 of those fics out of 19. And now about to get another one. So I'm gonna spin for what's going to be the next another one of these fics, another one of the one shot I'm gonna read, and then I'm gonna spin again for the answer W. Okay, okay. So let's try to spin the wheel. See which one of these 9 that I'm going to read next. So hopefully I got the right ones and such. Okay, let's go. Ooh. Oh yeah, it's You Got Me Like Mistletoe. So this is a tie between a Weird Boyfriends and Full Moons and Got Me Like Mistletoe. So it's a tie, but the You Got Me Like Mistletoe wins the game. So where is that? Oh yeah, right here, chapter 6. So this is a Christmas. There's fluff involved and mutual pining, as always, one of the fics that we have mostly. But this time it's more of a Christmas. But we're in the middle of July. So right now I'm recording this in July. So we're in the middle of it. So yeah, it's Christmas in July right here. But whatever. Let Australia do its work. Okay. Now that we're done with that, I will be right back for fix for NSW one shot. So NSW. So we've done the Blizzard. I've done Only Desires. I've also done Leap of Faith. I also done Leap of Genes and King of Fools. So all comes down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all comes down to just 5 of those picks. So we're about to get finished with all of the fics that I have. So there's only 10, and I've done half of them. So awesome. Okay, so I had first I need to get rid of the so that will be the option that I'll do next. And one shot. There's okay, we're down to 5 fics. Down to 5, and it's a W, one shot. So this is cool. Alright, let's see what are we landing on. Oh, finally, we're about to hit the second part of King of Fools. This is nice because I have done King of Fools Part 1 before. That was the previous recordings. That's just an audio of me reading the fic instead of the part 2 that I have. So yeah, I will start continuing the part 2 of King of Fools. There's gonna be a lot of it's a crime family lands, just so for heads up. There was Undercutter Cop Heat, and we have Lance becoming the member of it. There's some dirty talk, and there's some, you know that one. There's some BDSM themes, so that's a lot of it. There's a power play themes. That's throwing in. Got this one, and then who's top, who's bottom? Lance tops, and Keith's the bottom. Okay, now this is getting more the oomph. Get to push more oomph for that. Okay, that should be it for all that fic that I will be reading next week. Okay, so now that we're done picking what's gonna be the fic, I will see you guys next week for more of Across the Multiverse. All this project, the Across the Multiverse project. Goodbye, everyone. See you soon.